Apparently, The Eternals #2 has been canceled. Well, there's some other stuff to talk about, too. Most notably, some leaked images of certain characters from the Thunderbolts has come along. So there were some images of Black Widow. And pretty much the Black Widow outfit, more or less, somewhat different from what she was seen in Hawkeye and that sort of thing. But, pretty much what you'd expect, a black suit. And there's a lot of black suits in this thing. The most notable changes from these images was with the female cast members. There's some images of U.S. Agent in there, but his outfit looks pretty much similar to what you saw at the end of, Falcon and Winter Soldier series. Except he's looks like he's grown a beard or at least a mustache anyway. And appears to be fighting Black Widow. So I had assumed he would be a part of Thunderbolts, and maybe he is, and maybe they get into a fight during whatever mission they're on, or however it unfolds. But that appears to be the case in the scene. But anyway, so his suit's pretty much the same. Meanwhile, the bigger changes were for the characters of Ghost, who was in Ant-Man and the Wasp, a gender-swapped character. But she had a suit that was, I guess, more of a nod to the original version of Ghost and the later version of, him, as he was in the comic book series. Where his original suit was much more similar to like Moon Knight. It was all white. He had a hooded cloak and all that stuff. And then later on, he had this sort of gas mask type helmet and suit and all that. But they were both white, and her sort of high-tech looking outfit with the hood on it seemed to be sort of a derivative of those elements. And, well, I'm not a fan of gender-swapped characters or race-swapped characters and all that type of stuff. But nevertheless, boy, the actress really looked good in that suit. Well, she won't be wearing that, apparently, in the Thunderbolts film, unless, she's wearing it at first and changes clothes or something. But it doesn't look like it. Now she's in, yes, you guessed it, a black suit with a bit of a white mask on her helmet. But the helmet now does even resemble more the gas mask look of the male Ghost from the comics, who was a member of Thunderbolts in its latter days, not the original. Not going to get the original team at all. This story won't fit that. Again, at all. Those villains that posed as superheroes, which was a cool story. But, the reveal happens, and it's kind of, the gimmick is over. And then Thunderbolts just was taken over by the government and became Marvel's answer to Suicide Squad. So, that's the deal. And they'll go with that, it appears, here. And some of the backup scene with Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character collecting people from the different D+ shows, which nobody saw, so... I'm assuming there'll be some backstory in the movie just to get you going, but whatever. The other character, yet another notoriously gender-swapped character, Taskmaster. Taskmaster, for comic book readers anyway, was a well-known villain who can copy the abilities of other fighters and whatnot, and so he's... he carries a shield because he's copied Captain America's abilities and all that. Well, of course, despite the scenes obviously being performed by a man, we know this behind the scenes. There the guy was in the suit, and then they shoehorned in, what's her name? Olga, the model who became a Bond girl, Olga Olienko, I believe. And it's just like they just CGI'd her head on top of the guy. Maybe she was actually in the suit. I don't know. But anyway, it's just so bad. But here they've allowed her to show off her feminine physique in this more form-fitting suit, but maybe not entirely black, but pretty dark. And they changed up her mask. It's still a skull-like face, but not quite on par with the one in the Black Widow film. So that's the difference there. And I imagine if she was in shield custody or sword custody or whatever they're calling it at this point in the MCU, that she probably was recruited into the Thunderbolts for whatever mission they have to perform, which will involve the Sentry, the most powerful being in the universe, more or less. Basically a Superman knockoff type character. That was an interesting story unto itself with Sentry, but it once it ran its course, ran its course. I don't see how they approach that here unless they would introduce him as a character that no one remembers, who did exist in their early days and that kind of thing. I don't know. I doubt that they would go through that. And the kind of disturbance that would, and the ripple effect it would have, and maybe that would be a lead in to multiverse shenanigans, but I doubt it. He'll probably be some guy who they experimented on, and he broke loose, and Thunderbolts has got to bring him in and all that. But the people they've gathered just really don't have the power set for someone like Sentry. So who knows how it'll play out, but he didn't show up in these scenes, so that's that. So it was, U.S. agent and the girls, and that's what I saw. But I did take note of costume changes, and they tend to do that with these movies. They'll do this or do that, I guess. No, there's no guessing about it. It's the merchandising and that sort of thing. But they, Task Mistress is there. But at least she gets to show off her girlish figure. So anyway, there we go. That's that. Meanwhile, over at Captain Falcon, which will precede Thunderbolts and may lead into it, considering there's a lot of similarities between the two. The director has been shown the door and apparently has not been responsible for the reshoots and whatnot. And this sort of thing has happened before, certainly over at Lucasfilm when it came to Rogue One early on. And I hadn't realized this. I'm reading this article over at Cosmic Book News where Taika Waititi was taken off of Love and Thunder. And whoever finished that thing up didn't do a good enough job of fixing it. That thing was awful. Even though the overall premise and plot points could have been a great film, especially with the tragic reunion of Thor and Jane, and with her having a terminal illness and all that, and you could have had a very powerful narrative there. Plus, there's a massive plot hole at the end concerning that. And, but the movie with all those elements in it couldn't get the 5 seconds to take a breath between the idiot jokes they kept throwing in there. And, and Taika Waititi is very much that type of guy. How bad was it before? So that was the case, apparently, there on that. And this is according to the Cosmic Book News thing. But the rumor comes from ex-user ThwipT, who says the Cat 4 director John Asana has pretty much been removed from the project. He's been cordial about it, though, so his name will still be listed. Similar to Rogue One, when Tony Gilroy was brought in to finish the film, Gareth Edwards didn't start drama, so they let him keep full credit. Now, someone else countered on Twitter saying, you're lying because the actor, what's his name? Timothy Nelson? He's the guy who's going to be returning to the role of the character who becomes leader. So I'm guessing he'll be the leader from the Hulk comics. Yeah, no, Hulk villain. Thunderbolt Ross is in there. All these Hulk cast members. Betty will be there, but not the Hulk. He's probably going to have some cameo in it. They're just keeping it under wraps. But anyway, said he complimented the director. Well, yeah, you get things like that. That's not confirmation that the director wasn't sidelined or shown the door on this. And he keeps up an optimistic face over it all to stay in good and not burn bridges in the business and whatnot, even though this is a bit of a knife in the back, because odds are the problems with Captain Falcon probably aren't entirely his fault. He's probably doing what they told him to do. Now, there's been all kinds of different stories about directions changes. The reshoots, the massive reshoot, that's not false. That's really underway and happened. Which is standard for MCU these days. And it just seems to increase more and more and more massively to the point where it's a good bet that there will be two entirely different versions of this film. Possibly even a third, if not an unfinished. But there was characters that were supposed to be in it. They dropped them because of recent events. There was villains that were they dropped them to change it to someone. This kind of thing. With a lot of 11th hour approaches, because the movie's, I think, supposed to have already been released by now. So, yeah, not going to happen. That'll be next year. So, this stands to reason, there was some trouble there. So, it's unfortunate, but such is the way these things play out with this sort of, slap job scheduling they do, where other elements beyond plot, story, and character development take precedence. So that appears to be the case there, and that's that. So odds are, if things will improve, you won't see it until after these films have run their course. If they're big overhaul involving the return of Robert Downey Jr. and what have you is the goal, well, that's sometime down the road. So, but in the meantime, you got to roll this out. And whatever polishing they try to do, you keep hearing about that. It goes all the way back to the Doctor Strange film. None of it has really worked. It's just, my God, how bad was it before it came to this? That's the question. So anyway, that's something of an update on these two forthcoming MCU films.